But when he gets that World Cup Golden Ball trophy, that's when people will put his name in the record books as, yeah, he was a generational talent, one of the best players in this era of football. He's extremely good, and it's his time to really show just how good he is. That's why he'll win the golden ball. Shoot me down if you think that it is unpopular. I've said it since February. And win the World Cup final. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the first episode of the World Cup's edition season series of the Two Footed Tackle podcast. I'm your host, Ari Stamatakos, and it's here. It is here. The World Cup is upon us. I'm recording this on the 14th of November, 2022, which means in a week's time from when I recorded this, the Ecuador versus Qatar game would have kicked off, marking the commencement of the 2022 FIFA World Cup. I am pumped. I'm so excited. I can't wait to crack into it. I can't wait to crack into making content about it, to watching it every single game. Ruining my sleep schedule, getting absolutely no sleep for a month, which is it's gonna be great. I can't wait for it. But yes, before we crack onto all that, I hope the week has treated everyone nicely. We just a personal milestone, not personal, for podcast milestone. I think I tweeted about it a couple of weeks ago. I spoke about it maybe a couple of weeks ago. I wanted to get 200 subscribers before the start of the 2022 FIFA World Cup, and we've actually smashed that, and we've got it past 300. So I think we're on 308 at the time of recording, which just means the world to me. So that is incredible, absolutely incredible. So thank you all very much for that. For those who have subscribed, for those who have subscribed because of the Leeds clip or the Newcastle clip, if this is your first full podcast, please stick around. If you stick around if you enjoy it, don't want to force you to stick around if you're not enjoying it. But yeah, make sure you like it, get around it, share it, get around it, share it, yeah, do all that good stuff. It would mean the world to me. Subscribe to it, like it on YouTube, go on all the audio platforms, give it a 5-star rating, etc., etc. And of course, all the socials, 2 Foot Tackle Podcast on TikTok and Instagram, and 2ftpod on Twitter. That's all the formalities out of the way. That's all plugging myself. Let's crack in to, as you can tell, my World Cup predictions. Now, I thought it's probably best I give my predictions, and then I want to give my group predictions, and then obviously 16th quarter semis final, and then I want to do like a preview of the tournament, just some talking points in which I want to speak about afterwards, if I can remember to do that, and if this podcast doesn't go too long. But yeah, let's start. Actually, no. One more bit of formalities before I can crack into the actual preview. 2 more bits of formalities, actually. My mistake. Firstly, if you want to see some in-depth group so what this is going to be, this is going to be like me talking. No real tactical analysis, no real in-depth previews of the groups. If you want to see that, I've done a series on the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel, which, if I remember, will be in the link in the description for YouTube. But if not, just go onto the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel. Just type in the Inner Sanctum on YouTube, will come up, where I've done an in-depth preview on every single group A to H. Group A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Yes. Group A to H, all 8 groups, in-depth previews. I've also done a 5 players who will break out at the tournament. Well, it's now 4 because one of them didn't actually get picked. So you just have to go and watch that video to find out who I spoke about for 3 minutes and done research on it. He didn't end up getting picked, but there you go. Yeah, three players will break out. 3 dark horses for the tournament, and a key player for every single nation. So if you want those thoughts, head on over to the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel to watch those videos. Quite proud of them. So if you give them some love, that'd be great. And furthermore, if you're an Australian, or if you're an Australian supporter, Socceroos supporter, there will be a scout report on France, Tunisia, and Denmark out within this week. So Tuesday the 15th, Wednesday the 16th, and Thursday the 17th, there will be a scout report on France, Tunisia, Denmark, how Australia can beat them all that good stuff, previewing those games, which is going to be great. So that is the Inner Sanctum aspect of things out of the way. Now moving on to this. I've alluded to it, I've spoken about it, and I'm going to fully put it into concrete evidence now. I probably will tweet about it as well after this podcast goes out. But for the 2 Foot Tackle podcast, what we're going to do is we're going to be doing a podcast every single game day, or every single match day of the 2022 FIFA World Cup. That is going to kill me. So basically, every single time there is a match, there will be a podcast. So I'm not going to be doing I'm not going to be doing a podcast per game. That's ridiculous. Per match day. So all the group stage games I will be covering, all the knockouts, quarters, semis, final, etc. I think if I did the calculations right, I think it's something like 17, maybe 17 podcasts in a row before I can get a break. I think that's right. I think it's 17 days in a row where the group stage plus the knockouts are happening in a row. So 17 podcasts over 17 days before I can get some rest. But I can't wait for it. I'm pumped for it. So if you want to see more of this, then there you go. There is if you want to see more of me, then there you go. There'll be a podcast every single match day heading into or throughout the 2020 FIFA World Cup. So I'll be here every single time there's a match, reviewing all the action, previewing the following day's action. The the podcast won't be that long because I can't sit myself here for an hour every single day, staring into a lens with a very bright light above it. It's gonna burn my eyes, and also sleep and all that good stuff. I need it. So they'll float around 30 minutes, maybe touch over 45, floating in between there. They won't be the hour-long podcast which I've done for the past 4 weeks, I think. So my apologies there. And yes, I think we're done. 6-minute intro before I can actually crack into the previews. That's good. That video retention straight down the gutter. But anyway, let's crack into the World Cup previews. And also before I start it, once again, any footballing actions I won't be speaking about. So whatever's happened with Ronaldo, I mean, you can just go back and watch my clip on Ronaldo, which I did a couple of weeks ago. There's that. Chelsea are abysmal. City lost, which is quite funny. What else happened? Liverpool won. Good on them. That's pretty much it. All right, great. Let's move on. Let's finish up. Let's go. And let's start with Group A. Let's go with Group A. Now, obviously, Group A consists of... I can't believe I was talking about the World Cup, man. I'm just so excited. Let's crack on. Let's go. So let's speak about Group A. Let's start off with Group A, and that is, of course, Qatar, Netherlands, Senegal, and Ecuador. Of course, the first game of that group, and of course, the first game of the 2022 FIFA World Cup will be Ecuador versus Qatar. Now, I want to speak about probably each individual team to an extent, and then move on to the group preview. Let's start with Netherlands, probably the undisputed number one seed in that group. So potential spoiler for my predictions, but when we take a look at this Netherlands side, of course, it was a side that didn't qualify for the tournament last time. They obviously fell in the qualification stage after a pretty good 2014 campaign and a very good 2010 campaign, of course, reaching the final in 2010, reaching the semi-final in 2014. 2018 was pretty disappointing, and of course, the 2020 Euros was pretty disappointing as well. They topped their group. I think they won all 3 of their games quite comfortably, and they then fell to the Czech Republic. I think that's right, yeah, to the Czech Republic in the round of 16, which was disappointing and slightly underwhelming, which we didn't really expect from this Netherlands side that's packed full of talent. However, they do play this straight at the back system. Obviously, Van Dijk is a main part of that. Who's the other player? Frankie de Jong's a main part of that. And, of course, the emergence of Cody Gakpo, who I will touch on a little bit later, so potential spoiler for one of my other predictions. But, Cody Gakpo playing in that number 10 role will be absolutely crucial for the Netherlands heading into Qatar. And they are a side which not many people know what to expect because we haven't really seen them. Of course, we saw them in the Euros, but it's obviously quite a different team. Of course, Wijnaldum was a major part of the team. He's probably no longer in the fold. Of course, I don't think Virgil van Dijk was playing. Was that pre or before injury? Pre or prior ACL? I'm not quite sure. But anyway, it's quite a different Netherlands team to what we saw at the Euros. So it will be interesting to see whether or not they can actually go one step, or maybe go further than what they did at the Euros. Of course, they got bucket loads of talent, which is good for them. They need it. And when you look at this Netherlands side, it is incredibly balanced throughout. You obviously have a fantastic defense with Van Dijk. You have a fantastic midfield with Frankie de Jong. And then up front, you've got Cody Gakpo and Memphis Depay. Out wide, you've got Dumfries on that right-hand side, who's so good at getting forward and creating another option out wide. It's a very, very balanced Netherlands team, which is very good. However, the talent that they've got in the other areas is a little bit worrying. Of course, apart from Depay, they don't really have a true number 9. Apart from De Jong, they don't really have a true central midfielder. there's just a couple of areas in this squad which are a little bit weak. So they will need the likes of Gakpo, De Jong, Van Dijk, Depay, Dumfries. They will need their star players to really carry them throughout the tournament. And I think they should get through their group quite comfortably, and they need to get to at least the quarters for me. I think Netherlands need to get to at least the quarters because the disappointment that they showed at the Euros needs to be rectified, and I think a quarterfinal finish at the minimum is the only way to rectify that for Netherlands. I'll touch on where I've got them in the group when I finish talking about the other three teams, but yeah, that's Netherlands. Let's move on. Let's finish. I need to stop saying let's move on. Netherlands. Let's go to Qatar. Qatar, obviously, maybe not the second team in this group, but are certainly the host nation. Probably should have spoke about the host nation first, actually. But let's go to Qatar and let's go to the host nation. And they're probably Qatar are probably the most underrated team heading into the tournament. Now, I don't want to spoil where I've got them, but many people have just expected them to fall like perform how a team of that caliber should perform. And of course, not many people know a lot of Qatari players. They don't really play up in the top 5 European leagues at all. However, when you got the likes of Akram Afif and Almoz Ali playing up front, two players who are very deadly, two players who are very dangerous, and two players who like the ball played to them direct and quickly, getting in behind the fullbacks or getting in behind the centre backs, getting in between the lines, they can definitely cause a shock. At their home tournament as well. We all saw what that did for Russia in 2018. We saw what that did for Brazil in 2014, 2010. Of course, it was a South African World Cup. However, Ghana took that African pride and carried it all the way to the quarters. People are sleeping on Qatar big time, and obviously they're a team which, like I said, not many people know any plays for them. They don't really have any. They don't have a star man. Normally with teams who aren't great, they have like a star player. So like, I don't know. Quick, I need to think of a nation. So someone like Senegal, who we'll speak about next. Of course, like obviously they've got Koulibaly and Mendy and players like that. But obviously Mane is like their linchpin, right? If I can think of another nation, obviously Norway with Haaland, but they've also got Odegaard as well. Gabon with Aubameyang, perfect example. You have Gabon, a nation which not many people know about. They don't really make a massive splash in the World Cup scene, but they've got Aubameyang up front. Qatar, who is their linchpin, right? Who is a player that's playing in the top 5 leagues and really killing it in Europe. Qatar don't really have that. A lot of their players do play in the Middle East, do play around these Middle Eastern leagues, these Asian leagues, so not many people know what they're about. However, they will set up very defensively, they'll set up very stringently. They, of course, won the Asian Cup in 2019, and they won it quite convincingly. They beat Japan 3-1 in the final. They beat the likes of South Korea along the way, I'm pretty sure. So don't sleep on them by any means, and they're going to be very dangerous, especially if they're underestimated. Almoez Ali and Akram Afif will be the two players for them. So yeah, that's on Qatar. Move on to Senegal, and of course the main thing around Senegal is of course the cloud over Sadio Mane. Now, at this time, on Monday the 14th, he is in the squad. Of course, the squads have been announced and have been finalised by the time I've recorded. He is in the squad. He's finalising the squad. Will he be fit? Who knows? Of course, their first game will be against the Netherlands, which is a massive game in that group. It's probably the game which, if Senegal would want to break through and if Senegal wants to qualify, you'd think they need to get a point off Netherlands to really assert themselves. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they are able to do in what they're able to do at this World Cup without Sadio Mane or with the injury cloud over Sadio Mane. Of course, they do have a fantastic team. Otherwise, they're not a team like Gabon, who I just spoke about, with just one player. They obviously do have a lot of talent, of course, with Koulibaly, Seny Dieng as well, who could feature in the absence of Edouard Mendy. I don't know what's happening with him. I think he might be injured. I don't know if he played for Chelsea. It's probably poor from me. But yeah, but like they've still got bucket loads of talent. Like they've still got bucket loads of talent throughout that team. Obviously, Idrissa Gana Gueye playing in that holding midfielder role. They've got a very industrious midfield that stays compact in that 4-3-3 system. They rely on their front men to really provide the spark. They don't have a lot of creativity through their midfield, so they rely on their front three to really create. Obviously, Ismaila Sarr is another player who will help Mane or will aid the absence of Mane. I don't want to say they're overrated. I don't want to say they're overrated, but I've seen a lot of people saying that they could finish first in their group. I can't see that, especially with the Mane exit and the Mane absence. I just don't see it. Um, and once again, I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, Senegal are a weird team. They're a weird team. They're a very weird team. I'm not quite sure what they did back in the AFCON earlier this year, but earlier this year. It was this year, wasn't it? Or last year? Anyway, I'm not sure what they did at the African Cup of Nations. However, they did get through in the qualification stage for the World Cup on penalties over Egypt. Obviously, Egypt qualified last time out, so that's a pretty good scout for them. We take a look at they obviously breezed past their first round of qualification. So I think Senegal will be good. I think they're slightly overrated though. I just don't think that. I just don't. It's partly Senegal being overrated as well as the Asian nations being slightly underrated. So yeah, I'm just gonna go. They're my thoughts on Senegal. I just think they're slightly overrated, but they've got talent. Like obviously they can shock any team on any given day, right? So you can't sleep on them by any means. Let's finish up this group. Let's finish up Group A with Ecuador. Obviously Ecuador are a side which, I don't want to say boring, but they're gonna suffocate games, man. They're gonna be very. I mean, your pleasure in watching Ecuador this World Cup is gonna depend on your pleasure on watching extremely subdued football, and I mean that game versus Qatar, that's probably gonna be the worst kick-off to a World Cup ever, because you have Ecuador, who are an extremely defensive team. They float between a 4-4-2 and a 5 at the back system, and obviously Qatar as well are a team that aren't exactly filled with attacking talent that can break games apart. In Ecuador's last 4 games, there's been one goal scored in their last 4 games. Period. In their last 6 games, there's been 2 goals scored. Period. And before then, in the World Cup qualifiers, they drew 4 of their last 5 games 1-1. In between a 3-1 loss to Paraguay, they scraped through ahead of Peru with only 19 goals conceded throughout the whole qualification campaign, which was the third most or the third best level with Colombia. However, they did score 7 more goals than Colombia. So obviously with Ecuador, Moises Caicedo is their main man. He obviously will be playing in that right hand side or maybe slightly deeper in that midfield 3 in their 4-4-2, 4-3-3, 4-3-3, 5 at the back system, which they just like to float in and around with. It's going to be interesting to see how Ecuador, whether or not they could potentially shock some people, because not many people know what to expect for them. I think it's weird. I think a lot of this group comes down to the underestimation and the overestimation of other teams. I think a lot of people are underestimating Qatar and overestimating someone like a Senegal, which means Ecuador kind of fall in that third bracket, which I don't kind of see fit for them. I think, to put it bluntly, I think I'll struggle. I don't know how to describe this without sounding like a dickhead, but if Ecuador get a point at this World Cup, I'll be very surprised. I'll be very surprised because, yes, of course, they've drawn all of their games relatively recently, and they are very defensively solid. However, when you go to the World Cup, it's moments, right? And you need moments of brilliance. That defensive system very rarely works at the World Cup. I mean, it works, but how many times at the World Cup have you seen teams go far with drawing games 1-0 or drawing games 0 or winning games 1-0, 1-1? Like, there's goals scored at the World Cup, right? Players just take that moment. So I think Ecuador will be lucky to get a point. And that potentially moves on to my prediction for this group. And I've got Netherlands top. I've got Qatar finishing second. I've got Senegal finishing third. And I've got Ecuador finishing bottom. That's my prediction. A very unpopular prediction. A lot of people are predicting Qatar to finish last in the group. I can't see that in the slightest. I think they beat Ecuador. I think maybe the crowd get them over the line against Senegal, and then I don't know if they're versing Netherlands last or second, but who knows what can happen in that game, right? They're a very solid team defensively, and Qatar will make it out of the group, 100%. Qatar will make it out of the group. People underestimate Qatar so much, and yet people forget they won the Asian Cup in 2019. Like, they won it, and they won it in a very, very, very convincing manner. They beat Japan 3-0 in the final. A full-strength Japan team. It's a very, very similar side to what was in that 2019 Asian Cup. Obviously, they've played a lot of friendlies in the build-up to this tournament because they obviously didn't have to go through qualifying. They're going to be very stringent in defence, and they've got talent up front which can take them through games and can win them games off their own boot. Qatar will get through the group, in my opinion, and they'll shock a lot of people. It won't. If Qatar beat Netherlands, it won't surprise me because they have that talent up front as well as a very solid defensive structure to make that happen, in my opinion. So yeah, that's my Group A. Let's move on to Group B, and let's maybe speed things up a little bit. Obviously, Group B. Let's go. Obviously, Group B is maybe not the group of death. I wouldn't say this one's a group of death. I think there's quite a few groups of death in this tournament, but it is of course the USA, England, Wales, and Iran. So let's touch on England first. I want to touch on England first because obviously they are one of the favourites heading into the tournament, and I think if you know me, you know my predictions on England, which I'll touch on a little bit later. In terms of what I think will happen for them in the tournament. I think England are a very underrated team again because a lot of people look at Gareth Southgate, and this underestimation is that a word, comes from within their own country as well. A lot of people in their own country don't rate them, which is surprising to me. Gareth Southgate is a perfect tournament manager. When you look at that team in 2018. That team had no right to get to the semi-finals. And you could scream easy draw as much as possible. But they had Ashley Young playing left back. They had Danny Rose was in the squad. Gary Cahill was in the squad. And this is a very old Gary Cahill as well. Phil Jones was in the squad. Harry Maguire was a key player for them at that time. Dele Alli was in the squad and playing. Loftus-Cheek was playing in that squad. Jesse Lingard was playing in that squad. This was a very poor England team when it got to the semi-finals. When you look at the Euros, they're 3 spot kicks away, man. Like I've said this countless times. If Marcus Rashford kicks the ball 3 centimetres to the right, England win the Euros. I understand the absence of Tammy Abraham, Ivan Toney, James Ward-Prowse, maybe Fikayo Tomori is obviously the big talking point. I don't understand how Conor Gallagher's got in the squad. I don't understand how I don't understand how Conor Gallagher's got in the squad. I don't understand how Harry Maguire's got in the squad. Connor Cody, he's only taken 1 left back, which is quite surprising. Marcus Rashford as well. I don't really know about him all that much, but the squad is there, and the squad definitely has the ability to go far in this tournament. People like to hate on England for I don't understand for what reason. Obviously, we can't wait for the "Football's Coming Home" song to be ringing around the fucking stadium every single time England play. Obviously, that's in jest, and obviously that's a joke. But yeah, I think England will go far in the tournament. So a spoiler, but yeah, England are going through in my group. I won't say where they finish in this group, but I think England will go far. Let's move on to let's stay in Europe. Let's go to Wales. Wales are another team which is quite tricky to analyse. Of course, everyone remembers that Wales team from 2016. It's a very obviously making the semi-finals of the Euros. It is a very different Wales team. It is a very different Welsh team. So I'm not really sure people can look to that as much. I think you need to look at the Euros as a better indicator for what they can bring. I think they finished 3rd in their group. They were one of the better 3rd place qualifiers in their group, and they went to the next round. I think they got done 3-0 by Denmark in the round of 16. So, of course, this is a Wales team that is built around Gareth Bale, built around Aaron Ramsey. And like in the past especially, but Gareth Bale is still a major part in that team. They do have some young players who can break through. And will really want to show just how good they are at this tournament, almost like the passing of the guard heading into the future. But there's something about this Wales team. There's something about them which doesn't give me a lot of confidence heading into the tournament. They are still very reliant on Gareth Bale. They are very reliant on someone like a Kiefer Moore to hold the ball up and bring other players into the game. They'll play in this 3 at the back system, which is good for them because they aren't really that sound defensively. Obviously, Chris Mepham is probably the most high-profile centre-back, right? So, I I think it'll take a lot for Wales to get through. In my opinion, it'll take a lot for Wales to get through. I'm not saying that they won't get through, but it'll take a lot for them to get through. Let's cross the Atlantic. Atlantic, that's the ocean, isn't it? Move to the US, and the US are one of the teams I spoke about in the 3 Dark Horses video, which I mentioned at the start of the podcast. Go over the Insane YouTube channel, check that out. It's a good video. I'm proud of it. I like their team, man. I really, really like their team. There's something about this USA team this year. Of course, they will be looking to build towards 2026, and they will be looking to plant the seed in Qatar to sprout in 2026 at their home tournament. So not many people are expecting them to go to like the quarters or the semis this year. I think they've got a very talented squad, a very young squad as well, who can shock teams in a massive way. Obviously, Tyler Adams sitting at the base of that midfield is going to be massive for them. Weston McKennie as well. Obviously, Anthony Robinson, Christian Pulisic, Timothy Weah. They've got a lot of talent up front. They've got a lot of talent in the attacking areas as well as in midfield, and the defence, despite not having a lot of standout names, is still very solid. Of course, Walker Zimmerman, the captain of their squad, that leader of that squad will be massive for them heading into Qatar. And people are sleeping on them because they're the US, I think, because they don't have like Dempsey and Donovan and Howard and like all these guys, like even further back, like Lalas and other players further back, right? Because they don't have any stars, people are underestimating them, but they'll be very solid this tournament. I think they'll be very good. Once again, people are underestimating them big time. They're a side that will shock a lot of people. 100% will shock a lot of people. And they obviously didn't finish first in their World Cup qualification. In CONCACAF, obviously Canada finished first in CONCACAF, but I still think the US will be very good. I think that they'll be very good. They play a very solid 4-3-3 system that's very fluid up front and very interchangeable up front. Yeah, the US will be very good this tournament, no doubt. Let's finish up and let's move to Asia. Let's move to Iran. Iran are another team very, very, very underrated. Iran are very, very underrated. I don't understand why they're underrated because they finished top in their World Cup qualifying group ahead of South Korea and ahead of the UAE. Obviously, the UAE have only been to the tournament once, but South Korea are a very, very they're a staple in the World Cup. They finished top in that group, and they've got a lot of talent. They've got a lot of talent in that squad. Of course, Mahed Taremi is that main man for Iran, but I just don't see why the underestimation of... Is that even a word, underestimation? I'm just going to roll with it for this podcast. I've said it twice now, so I'm just going to roll with it. I don't see why Iran are underrated. I don't see why Iran are rated that low in the slightest. They've got a very solid team. Of course, they versed England in their first group game, and fuck it, they can cause a shock in that team, in that game, and even in this group, they can cause a shock. If Iran get through, it won't surprise me. Nah, not at all. A lot of people are saying that about Wales. If Wales get through, it will surprise them. But for me, it's Iran. I think Iran are a very underrated team and can definitely do a lot of good in this tournament. It's something about these Asian nations, man, that are heavily, heavily underrated. A lot of people are predicting every single Asian nation in their group to finish last. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case at all. So yeah, that's just the 2 cents on Iran. I think they're going to be very good. They're going to shock everyone. I don't think they'll be very good. I think they'll shock people though. They'll shock people. Of course, they did very well in 2018. So, yeah, that's the preview for every team. And let's move on to, or let's not move on. Let's finish up with where I think teams will finish. In first place, I've got England, Shakara. Second, I've got the US. Third, I've got Iran, and fourth, I've got Wales. Wales are very overrated, in my opinion. Let's move on to Group C. Group C, of course, is a very, very tough group. A very similar group to what was 4 years ago, I feel like, if my memory serves me correctly. But, of course, it is Mexico, Argentina, Poland, and Saudi Arabia. it is obviously the group that revolves around Lionel Messi. It is the group that revolves around Lionel Messi, and it is the group that revolves around this Argentinian team. Of course, it's Messi's last tournament. This will be the storyline around Argentina, heading into the tournament, and of course throughout the tournament. It is of course his last tournament, his last chance to get that elusive World Cup trophy. It's gonna be one hell of a tournament to watch from that perspective. One hell of a tournament to watch from that perspective, because when you look at things from the Argentinian perspective, of course, they did win the Copa America. That was that elusive international trophy that Messi has been craving. We've all seen that speech floating around on Twitter prior to that final. He would die for this shirt, and of course, he has announced it is his last World Cup. Like I've said, that they will be willing to do. They'll be wanting to do absolutely everything in their powers to get him through to that final and to win him that final. They obviously have the heartbreak in 2014. They have a very underwhelming campaign in 2018. Of course, the Copa America victory was fantastic, but this side is still very balanced. This side is still very good, in my opinion. Lautaro Martinez up front is still a fantastic player. Obviously, Alessandro Martinez at the back is very good. Obviously, had a fantastic season for Man United. It's gonna be very, very interesting to see the narrative around Messi. I can't wait to watch some Argentina games this season, this World Cup, because the narrative is Messi. The narrative for the whole World Cup is Messi versus Ronaldo, right? So, yeah, fuck. I feel like a lot of people when they look at Argentina think Messi, but when you look at the other players in this side, it is a very balanced team. And it wouldn't shock me in the slightest if Messi didn't have the best World Cup, but Argentina still went relatively far, because they obviously are going to carry that high from the Copa America win. They're going to carry that momentum and that kind of adrenaline rush that Messi's last World Cup will give them. And the other players around Messi will want to step up and give Messi that trophy. I think a lot of people are kind of pinning Argentina's hopes to Messi's performances. I think that's a little bit unfair, because I think they're a well-coached team, very balanced, and they've got a lot of talent around Messi to supply him and to kind of facilitate him and to aid him if he doesn't perform well in a certain game. I think Argentina's squad is quite underrated. I think they're a very good squad. So but it will be around Messi. It will revolve around Messi in this tournament, 100%. And do you blame anyone? Do you blame anyone for revolving everything around Messi? Because really, it is Messi's World Cup. Like, let's be honest. Let's move on. And let's stay in the Americas and let's go to Mexico. Of course, once again, we spoke about the storyline with Messi. The storyline will be around the fifth game. Now, for those who aren't aware of the fifth game, Mexico for the past 7 World Cups have fallen at the fifth game. The round of 16 game have not been able to make it to the fifth game. That's what I was saying. The fifth game curse. They have fallen at the fourth hurdle at every single World Cup since 1994. Since Italia 94. Or no, USA 94, I think. 94, 08, 02, 6, 10, 14, 18. Maybe 98. Maybe it was France 98. I'm not quite sure. But it's around about the mid 90s. I think it's the past 7 World Cups they haven't been able to get through into the quarterfinals, and this will be playing on their mind 100%. Of course, they had a pretty good tournament last time out. They qualified in that group that consisted of Germany. They obviously beat Germany in that game. Hirving Lozano got the goal, if my memory serves me correctly. Mexico will be good. Mexico are always good, but Mexico are weird because, of course, if I'm not mistaken, there is a little bit of unrest within their football federation. There is a little bit of uncertainty around what they're going to do at this World Cup. So to me, Mexico could finish first, but they could also finish last. Mexico is I think this Mexican team on paper has everything to potentially even top this group. However, there's this thing that will be lingering at the back of their mind, that round of 16 curse. They haven't been able to get past that hurdle, and maybe they're going to put all their eggs into the 2026 basket. It could be one of those things where they could top the group, but they could also capitulate and finish last. They're the two things that I think would happen for Mexico this tournament. But then again, the talent is there for them to just coast through the group as expected and really just show their class with the talent they've got. So Mexico will be a very tricky team and will be a very interesting team to watch heading into the tournament. Let's move across left to right. Poland. Let's move across from the Americas to Europe, and then we'll finish up in Asia. Let's go to Poland. And Poland are a team that have been carried by one man for the longest time. Of course, that is Robert Lewandowski. Poland are very, I don't want to say overrated, but a lot of people expect a lot from them. I think they're a team that has been carried by Lewandowski for the longest time, but they aren't a team that have kind of lived up to the expectations that they've had. I think at the Euros they fell in the group stage. They only scored 5 goals and 4 of them came from Lewandowski, or they scored 4 and only 3 of them came from Lewandowski. So they are very heavily reliant on Lewa to get them goals and to get them wins. Obviously, they've got Zielinski as well, who's having a fantastic season for Napoli. He's going to be a player that could potentially aid or shoulder the load for Lewandowski heading into the tournament. I don't know. I don't know. With France. I mean, with Poland. With Poland. I don't know, because their squad is actually quite good. Like, their squad's quite good, and everything like that is leaning for me to almost put them through in their group and finish second. But spoiler alert, Argentina finishing first. But something in my mind is saying nah, they're not good. So I'm very conflicted with Poland, and I think the Poland's standings in their group will Poland's standings in their group will be not reflected, but will come down to the performances of Saudi Arabia. And with Saudi Arabia, they're another team incredibly underrated. They finished top in their Asian qualification group. They are a very solid team with talent out wide. Of course, Salim Al Dosori will be the guy for Saudi Arabia. Very talented footballer. Can cut inside off the left wing onto his right foot, and very direct, very good goal scorer, very good eye for goal. So I genuinely think that Saudi Arabia are a very underrated team, and this is probably the group of death, thinking about it, because Argentina are obviously great. Mexico are a very weird team that could probably finish top but also last. Poland, like Lewandowski can score 6 goals in 3 games and carry Poland through out of the group, but they could also do what they've done in the last international tournaments and just capitulate. And then you have Saudi Arabia, who a lot of people are underestimating. Then you have Saudi Arabia, who a lot of people are underestimating, but have so much talent, underrated talent, that they could really just cause a shock. And I think Saudi Arabia is kind of the epitome of that. Not many people know what to expect from Saudi Arabia, but if you look into their team, if you look into some of their performances, they're a very good side, and they've got a lot of talent. So I think that carries us on well to where I think each team will finish. Like I said, Argentina finished top. I've gone Mexico second. I've gone Saudi Arabia third, and I've gone Poland last. But if Saudi Arabia make it through, it won't shock me in the slightest. I think they're very good. I think they're a very good team. Let's move on to Group D, as we're just ticking under 40 minutes. So this podcast will probably be an hour and a half long. Let's go to Group D, of course. Australia, France, Tunisia, and Denmark. Let's start with Australia. And I don't want to speak about the Australian team as much because I've spoken about that a lot. I've never seen a country I've never seen a country resign themselves to defeat before a tournament has even started more than Australia. It is the most infuriating thing in the world. So many people saying, yeah, we'd be lucky to get a point. Australians are saying that. Why can't this country believe? Why can't this country suspend reality for a moment and just think, what if? And get behind that notion of what if. It comes around once every 4 years. We get drawn in hard groups, it seems, every single year, every single World Cup. Why can't, as a nation, we just get behind these boys? Why can't we get through? Why can't we get through? Are Tunisia all that better than Peru? No, they're actually worse. Tunisia are worse than Peru. France are a very fallible team, extremely fallible team. And Denmark, mate, Denmark are a team that are susceptible as well. Why can't the Australian public just get behind why can't the Australian public just get behind these boys instead of resigning ourselves to defeat for every single game? We've got talent. We actually have a lot of talent. Hustic is one of the most technically gifted players I've seen in an Australian shirt. Aaron Moyes having a fantastic season for for Celtic. We have talent. Moy, Hustic, Sutar, these very good players. Cummings up front is in a hell of a form. You have Qual off the bench. Atkinson, Karacic are very good right back options. Aziz Beige has been a staple for the Socceroos side. Matt Ryan in goal is still very good. Jackson Irvine is having a fantastic season. Cam Devlin's having a fantastic season. We have talent. Why can't these countries suspend belief for one moment? Or suspend reality, and believe for one moment that we can actually get through? Stranger things have happened. Costa Rica got through probably one of the hardest groups ever drawn in the World Cup. Why can't we? And that moves us on perfectly to France. And I've seen a lot of people saying France can win the tournament. I've seen a lot of people saying France will go to semis at least. Obviously, no Kante, no Pogba is a big loss for them. Benzema, the fitness around Benzema is not really known. Will he be fit for the first game against Australia? Who knows? Deschamps is saying that he'll be fit, so I guess we'll have to take his word for it. We'll also have to take his word of the fact that he will be reverting back to his 4-2-3-1 system / 4-3-3 system. Obviously, he has played a 3-at-the-back system for the longest time. Especially after the Euros, he's played a 3-at-the-back system for pretty much the whole qualification campaign. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not he reverts back to the 3 after saying he'll go to the 4. He will stick with the 4 at the back. It's going to be something that the Socceroos, fuck me, I can't stop looking at my phone. It's going to be something that France will be looking to kind of surprise teams with, that difference in structure, difference in system, and also the main storyline with France will be the World Cup winners' curse. Of course, in 2006, the winners of Italy didn't get through in 2010. The winners in 2010, Spain, didn't go through in 2014. The winners in 2014, Germany, didn't go through in 2018. And will the winners of 2018, France, not go through in 2022? Who knows? France are a very susceptible team. This is probably going to be one of the most unpopular opinions ever, but France's 2018 World Cup win is one of the worst World Cup wins in modern history. They were extremely lucky to win that tournament. They did not play good football at all. They were relying on counter-attacks, individual brilliance, and penalties and corners. When you look at all their goals from pretty much around 16, they beat Uruguay in the quarters off a corner and off a freak shot from Griezmann that was spilt into Uruguay's own net. They beat Belgium in the semis off a corner, and when you look at the final, they own goal, penalty, counter attack from Mbappe to score his goal, and a shot which Subasic really should have saved against Paul Pogba. Croatia dominated that game, and France didn't dominate a single game in that 2018 World Cup. They got very lucky against Australia. They got lucky against Peru, and they drew against Denmark. This is one of the most overrated national teams in a very long time. And they're going to move back to the system that they played in 2018 for this World Cup. Who knows what will happen? I actually want to finish on Denmark, so let's touch on Tunisia. Obviously, Tunisia are probably the most unknown team heading into this tournament. They obviously have one key player, and that is, of course, Wabi Kazri, who, of course, scored a couple of goals back in 2018. They scored a couple of... He scored a couple of goals in 2018, really carried them in the 2018 tournament. They, of course, did beat Panama 2-1 in their final group game. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not that experience of winning a game can carry them into this tournament. but I can't really see a lot of people expecting a whole lot from Tunisia, to be honest, because they just aren't that team, in my opinion. They don't have a lot of quality. They play a pretty risky style of football. They beat Japan recently, which is quite a good result. However, they got smashed 5-1 by Brazil. They play a kind of risky. They play a pretty good way of, style of football. It works in Africa. But yeah, Tunisia are going to be I don't know. I can't really see. I'm not going to expect a lot from Tunisia. Put it that way. Let's go to Denmark, and Denmark, of course, are a team that a lot of people will be claiming dark horses. I spoke about them in my 3 dark horses for the World Cup video for the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel. Go check it out. But I don't think they're dark horses. I think they're very good. Very balanced. Very attacking wise, they're brilliant. Højbjerg in the playing as a single pivot is fantastic. Of course, you've got Dolberg, Eriksson, Damsgaard, Skov Olsen, Poulsen, Braithwaite. I don't know if he's in the squad, but you got Braithwaite. You got Jonas Wind, who's having a fantastic season. Yeah, I think they're a good team. Very good team. So I wouldn't call them dark horses. They could go far. And if they replicate what they did at the Euros, it wouldn't shock me in the slightest. So with that saying, let's go to the group standings. And call me biased, call me delusional, call me an idiot, call me blind faith. That's not an insult, but say that I'm using blind faith. I've got Denmark finishing first, and I've got Australia finishing second. And here I've got France and Tunisia, France finishing third, Tunisia finishing fourth. Sure, we'll go with that. Although if France finished last, it wouldn't surprise me. You call me delusional. Please call me delusional. But if I'm delusional, then so be it. I'm believing in this group to get through. Let's speed things up and let's go to Group A, and let's tick things on quite nicely because we've got 45 minutes and I still want to speak about 4 groups and some other things as well. So if these group previews are condensed, my apologies. I just need to get through this as quickly as possible. So yes, all right, let's go. Let's touch on Group A. Sorry, I just got distracted a little bit once again. Group A, it is, of course, Spain, Germany, Costa Rica, and Japan. Spain, I think, are the best team in this group in terms of talent-wise. Of course, Germany are a side which actually obviously got knocked down in the round 16 at the Euros, had a very underwhelming 2018 World Cup campaign. So Germany, of course, are a side that are transitioning. Obviously, they got through the Joachim Löw phase of football at the end of the Euros, where they fell in the round 16 to England. They've gone to this Hans de Flick style of football, which seems to have reverted back to the 4-2-3-1 system. Of course, they did play a 3 at the back system at the Euros. Without a natural striker, of course, Werner would have played up front, but he was, of course, injured. They're probably going to go with Havertz or maybe Gnabry up front, or maybe even someone like a Thomas Muller playing as a false 9. I think moving Kimmich back into DM is a very good move. I think introducing Jamal Musiala is a very good move. I think Germany are going to be a pretty good team. I think Germany are going to be a very good team this World Cup. And when you look at their team that they'll be competing against most predominantly, that is Spain. Spain are another side which I think will be very good and slightly underrated, if I may say so. Spain, of course, are a team that have obviously transitioned from this tiki-taka Iniesta, Busquets, Xavi, David Villa, Cesc Fabregas, Pedro, this style into this new regime. Of course, they've got a fantastic young midfield of Pedri and Gavi, which is fucking absurd. How on earth are they going to start a World Cup with Gavi and Pedri and perform better than 90% of teams? It's ridiculous. Those two players are a joke. Pedri and Gavi are a joke. They're actually a joke. Of course, up front, they've got the likes of Ferran Torres, Alvaro Morata, who's always performed well for Spain, Ansu Fati as well. And defensively, they're still very strong. I think Rodri in that base of midfield is going to be very good for them if he plays over Busquets. Laporte is obviously a very good player. Marcus Llorente, when he plays right back for Spain, he's very good. I think Spain with Unai Simon in goal over David De Gea, which is the right choice in my opinion. I think Spain are going to be very good. Let's go to France. Not France. Fuck me. Why do I keep saying France? Japan. Let's go to Japan and let's go to Japan and once again a very very underrated team. They were within a bee's dick of beating Belgium back in 2018. Of course, a 95th minute counter attack. Saw them lose that game 3-2, which is heartbreaking for them. They, of course, made the final of the Asian Cup. I think, yeah, they did make the final of the Asian Cup. Granted, they lost, but they still made it. They finished second in their World Cup qualification group. They've got fantastic players, a very balanced team. Of course, Wataru Endo being that holding midfield pivot to allow the likes of Yaori Ito, hope I'm pronouncing that right, Takumi Minamino, all these very flair attacking players that have become synonymous with the Japanese way of playing football in recent times. Yeah, I think Japan are going to be good. I think Japan are going to be good, and I think their group is very harsh to them. I think it's a very harsh group that they've been put in. Let's go to Costa Rica. Like I said, I'm speeding things up. I want to get through these really quickly. Let's go to Costa Rica. Of course, the 2014 World Cup campaign is what we all remember them for. I don't see them replicating it at all. I think that we're going to see something similar to what they showed back in 2018. They got 1 point in 2018. They are pretty defensively solid. They've had a fantastic run. I think they won 6 of their last 7 World Cup qualification campaign games, meaning they got through ahead of they got into that playoff place. They beat New Zealand 1-0. Joel Campbell goal in the 3rd minute, and they scraped past New Zealand. Let's be honest. Yeah, I don't see anything happening with Costa Rica. Sorry, I just don't see anything happening. So I think they're finishing last in my group. So with that saying, I've got Spain finishing top, Germany finishing second, Japan finishing third, Costa Rica finishing fourth. Japan could get through if either team aren't absolutely perfect. Japan could get through. 100%. They've got talent. They've got a lot of talent. I need to crack on with this very, very quickly. Let's go to Group... what's after E? F. That's good. Group F, and that is, of course, the second group of the kind of two... maybe the third group if you want to count Group D, but obviously the second group when it comes to two main teams that will go through, and that is, of course, Croatia, Belgium, Morocco, Canada. Of course, Croatia, 2018 World Cup. We all know what happened there. Probably very unlucky to not win that. They dominated the final. They played fantastic football throughout. That old guard of Modric and Brozovic in that midfield is going to be very good for them. So, I mean, Croatia are a pretty weird team because they obviously had an underwhelming European Championship campaign. Probably could have gone a little bit further than what people thought they could have. They've obviously got Modric, who is still fantastic despite being 105 years old. It is quite a different team to what they took back in 2018. It is a slightly more aging team as well. So if they do not get through the group, it wouldn't shock me, because I think this is their last chance for this Croatian team, as it stands, to really break into that upper echelon of international teams. However, they've still got so much talent, so they could finish first, they could finish third or fourth. It wouldn't shock me. I think we just have to wait and find out what they could, what they're going to show in their first group game to really see what they can do from there. We look at Belgium. Belgium are in a very similar boat. Obviously, this golden generation are coming to the twilight of their career. However, I think they do have a little bit more quality. I do think they have a little bit more quality in this team than Croatia to really show what they're able to do. Obviously De Bruyne is still at the peak of his powers. I mean, they've got players like Trossard, who is hitting a purple patch of form. Obviously Lukaku up front always performs for Belgium. I think Belgium are going to be the best. I think Belgium are going to be the best of the rest. And what I mean by best of the rest is teams that aren't expected to go to like the semis or even the final. I think they're still going to be very good. Their old guard, their golden generation, which exploded onto the scene in 2014 and 2018. I think going one step further than 2018 is maybe just out of reach for them. However, football throws up curveballs, and we've seen so many times before teams towards the tail end of their tenure and towards the tail end of their prime really shock the world and do something magical in cup football and in tournaments. So I think Belgium definitely have the potential to go really far. However, I just think they'll fall at around the quarters. So yeah. Of course, Canada and Morocco, two teams very similar in terms of what they're able to do. two teams that could shock on any given day. On any given day, two teams that pretty much rely on maybe not two players, but of course when you look at Morocco, it's Hakimi and Ziyech. When you look at Canada, it's David and Davies. Of course, with Canada, Stefan Eustáquio is playing fantastic football for Porto in that central of midfield, so they could really cause a shock. Morocco as well have this. I think they're one of the better qualifiers coming out of Africa as well. So they've got talent. Both teams have bucket loads of talent. And like I said with the previous group, if either team aren't perfect, I can definitely see Morocco or Canada leapfrogging one of the two teams and getting into those top two places and really shocking the world. But with that saying, I've gone Belgium top, Croatia second. I think I've got Canada third, have I? I've gone Canada third, Morocco fourth. However, this is a very even group, despite what many people think. This is a very even group. Let's go to Group G. And that is, of course, a very, very similar group to what we saw in 2018. It is Switzerland, Brazil, Serbia, and Cameroon. Brazil will be the favourites and are the favourites for the tournament quite rightly. They're a team that are very good, so much talent. Despite their fullbacks being a little bit questionable, I think that the talent that they've got is unbelievable. Of course, leaving the likes of Roberto Firmino out is quite risky and quite controversial, but I think it was the right decision in the end. They are a team that show just how good they are in terms of they don't hide away and they don't cave into pressure. They really perform in the international stage, and I think that's epitomised by Neymar. He's a player that just shows up for Brazil every single time. He's so good for them, and I think he'll carry on heading into. I think he'll carry on in Qatar. I think they're going to be very dangerous. They're going to be very hard to stop. Let's go to Serbia, who are the third team who I touched on in my 3 dark horses heading into the World Cup video. On the Intersectum YouTube channel, check it out. I think Serbia are very good. Vlahovic and Mitrovic up front, Tadic in behind, Kostic off the left, Milinkovic-Savic playing in that central midfield role. 5 at the back system is very solid. They spring out wide on the counter-attack to get crosses into the box. They're going to be very dangerous from set pieces. They're going to be good. Serbia are going to be good. And they're going to finally show what they're able to do on the world stage, because we all think Serbia and we all know Serbia produce a lot of good footballers. They have a very good footballing culture, but they aren't able to really show it on the world stage. I think this is their time. I think this is their time to really show just how good they are. So Serbia can definitely shock a lot of people. Let's go to Cameroon. Let's stay in Europe. Let's go to Switzerland. Obviously 2020 Euros beat France in a very intense back and forth game. They are a side that likes to play very sturdy and disciplined football. Can do a lot of damage, especially on the counter attack. This is going to be the bi-yearly time everyone in football gets extremely frustrated with Haris Seferovic for whatever reason, because he can't score goals, even though he's a striker. He just can't score. So can't wait to watch Switzerland to get absolutely frustrated by him. But I think Switzerland can definitely cause a shock. We've seen it. They beat France quite comfortably as well, or maybe not quite comfortably, but they were in control for most parts of that game against France. So I don't see France. I don't see Switzerland underperforming to an extreme extent. I think they're going to be. I think if they underperform, it won't be by much. If they overperform, it won't be by much. I think a lot of people have an expectation of Switzerland, and I think that's what they'll perform at. I think they're a pretty good team as well. I think they're a pretty good team. Let's go to Cameroon. Obviously, the second last African nation we'll be covering on this, or covering in the World Cup. They're tricky, very tricky, because they don't have a lot of talent. They aren't a side that have a lot of talent. They have good players in good areas. I just don't see them. I don't see them doing anything at this World Cup. Is that harsh? I think it might be a little bit harsh, but I just don't see them. I don't see them breaking through that. I don't see them breaking through that, kind of grabbing that brass ring and upsetting quite a few. I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't think they have that X factor player, which you need, especially if you're a country which isn't good. If you're not a top nation, you need an X factor player. I don't think they have that. Of course, I've got Toko Akambi, Choupo-Moting as well, who are good players, but they aren't that player. They aren't that player. So I think it might be a step too far for them to get through the group. So with that saying, I've gone with Brazil top. I've gone with Serbia second, Switzerland, Cameroon. Might be a little bit controversial. I've seen quite a few people saying that Switzerland will go through, or even Cameroon. But I've gone with Serbia. I like the way that they play football. Let's touch on the final group, and that is of course Group H. It is Uruguay, Ghana, South Korea, and Portugal. Let's touch on Portugal first. Cristiano Ronaldo's World Cup to lose. Not to lose, but of course, Ronaldo, he needs it, doesn't he? He needs it more than anything. And if he's going to get it, it needs to be now, because he won't be rolling around in 2026. He needs the World Cup. Ronaldo needs the World Cup. And I think if Ronaldo doesn't get the World Cup, it will kind of tarnish his legacy a little bit, because he's been this perfectionist. Ronaldo's kind of the definition of Ronaldo is perfectionist, and you can't have this label as a perfectionist without having a perfect trophy cabinet. And he's got pretty much every single trophy that he could have won, except for the World Cup. And if he doesn't get it, it's gonna haunt him. Put it that way. He won't get over it ever. He will not get over it, and he will hold grudges for a long time if he doesn't get it. It's going to be him versus Messi. Everyone wants that. Everyone wants that kind of that storyline to play out all the way to the final. If there's any time, you can write Portugal off all you want, but if there's any time for a team to carry a player to the promised land, and for a player to potentially carry his whole nation to the promised land, it's Portugal. They've got a great team. They probably have a better team than what Messi's got. But Portugal obviously with the talent, haven't really found the best way to get the most out of it. So I guess that's something that we'll have to find out heading into the tournament. Let's go to South Korea. We've actually got all four continents, which is cool. Is that the only group in which there's all four continents being represented? No, Group A also has that. So I'm an idiot. Let's move on. Let's go to Uruguay. Let's go to South Korea. Let's go to Asia. Let's go to South Korea. Once again, Sun. Once again, another Asian team, extremely underrated. Extremely underrated. South Korea are a very good team. They don't have potentially the talent, the depth in talent to what maybe Japan has. But with Sun up front, anything is possible. Anything is possible. He will be fit. I'm not sure for how many games he'll be fit, but he definitely will be fit. So they're a team which can definitely do something. And if they do get through, it wouldn't shock me in the slightest. Is that a spoiler for where I've got them? Who knows? Maybe we just have to wait and see. So yeah, South Korea are a good team. If Sun can get fit and firing, they'll be very deadly. They'll be very dangerous heading into in Qatar, in my opinion. They beat Germany last time out, so they obviously have some minerals about them. They've got some cojones about them to do something. Let's go to South America. Let's go to Uruguay. An aging Uruguay team, maybe a Uruguay team which isn't as strong as potentially what it was maybe 8 years ago. A Uruguay side that has a very historical way of playing football. Maybe not historical, but a very traditional way of playing football that has been kind of the same way all the way through from maybe 10 years ago all the way to now. Obviously, Darwin Núñez is starting to hit a pretty good patch of form, which is good for them. Federico Valverde will be their key player, in my opinion, playing in that centre mid role or even on the right wing if he wants to play there. Obviously, Luis Suarez up front had some pretty good history in the World Cup. Who's he going to bite this year? Who knows? Or what red card is he going to get? I think that's probably the thing. What red card is Luis Suarez going to get? But yeah, I think Uruguay are a team which Uruguay. They're Uruguay. They know what they need to do. They probably do it 9 times out of 10, and they live up to expectation 9 times out of 10 as well. I think they got through in 2014. I'm pretty sure they got through that group in 2014. Of course, 2018 they fell in the quarterfinals. They obviously beat Portugal in 2018 in the round of 16, which is a pretty good result for them. So, yeah, I think Uruguay are Uruguay. I think they're going to be good. Not great, but good. Finish up on the final team, that is Ghana. Ghana, of course. I feel like maybe it's a little bit of a Mandela effect. They actually have played a World Cup since 2010. That was 2014, which I actually forgot. They were in that group with the USA, Portugal, and Germany, I think. I think they got through in that group. Did they? Or am I making things up? I don't know. But yeah, obviously everyone looks back to that 2010 team. Completely different, of course. I don't think there's one remaining player from that 2010 team. But I just don't see it. I don't want to be dismissive of them because I don't want to be dismissive of any team in this tournament because any team can literally do anything. Any team can literally do anything. So I don't want to be overly dismissive, but they've got talent though. They've got the Ayus, Inaki Williams, Thomas Partey, Mohamed Kudus. Maybe I've underestimated Ghana big time. This is a very tough group. This is a very, very tough group. Very tough group. They're very fallible. They're a fallible team. I think they had, if I'm not mistaken, Ghana had the most unbelievable World Cup qualification campaign. Like the most ridiculous kind of, if I'm not mistaken, if I can quickly just find it, was it? Yeah, it was, wasn't it? So yeah. Wait, please be it. Yeah, so they finished on the same points as South Africa, same wins, same draws, same losses, same goal difference. They got through on goals scored, and then they versed Nigeria in the playoff, and they won one. They drew 1-1 away in the first leg, and then drew 0-0 in the second leg and got through. It was the most insane qualification campaign, but I've underestimated them big time. I think that could actually do something pretty good. But with that saying, I've already got my team. I've already got my group already written down. I'll stick with it. I've got Portugal first, Uruguay second, South Korea third, Ghana fourth. But this is probably one of the most competitive groups heading into the tournament. Anyone could beat anyone. Anyone could do anything. So yeah, they're the groups. I'm probably going to flash it up now. I haven't done this with my stream deck, but I will probably do it in post. I'll put up all the groups as I speak about them so you can visualize it. Here are all the groups. Right now, group wrap up. This is who I've got through, meaning this is the round of 16 draw. Netherlands versus the USA, Argentina versus Australia, England versus Qatar, Denmark versus Mexico, Spain versus Croatia, Brazil versus Uruguay, Belgium versus Germany, Portugal versus Serbia. So, I've gone with Netherlands versus the USA. Netherlands win that, in my opinion. I think they're just going to be too good, in my opinion. Netherlands get through. Argentina beat Australia, as much as I would hate to say it. Argentina beat Australia. England beat Qatar. Denmark beat Mexico and maintain that heartbreaking round of 16 curse from Mexico. Spain beat Croatia in what is a repeat of the round of 16 in the round of 16 of the Euros. Brazil beat Uruguay in what will be a very, very tasty game. Germany beat Belgium, in my opinion. And Serbia beat Portugal. Which is... yeah, Serbia beat Portugal. Serbia break Cristiano Ronaldo's heart. Netherlands versus Argentina. This obviously leaves Netherlands versus Argentina, Spain versus Brazil, England versus Denmark, Germany versus Portugal. Argentina beat Netherlands, Brazil beat Spain, England beat Denmark, Germany beat Serbia. Germany versus Serbia, not Germany versus Portugal. Germany beat Serbia. That obviously leaves Argentina versus Brazil and England versus Germany. I mean, what a semi-finals, right? Two fucking huge rivalries. I've gone with Brazil to beat Argentina. Messi doesn't get that trophy. And I've got England to beat Germany. And in the final, potentially unpopular, and shoot me down if you think that it is unpopular. I've said it since February. England beat Brazil and win the World Cup final. This is England's time. This is England's time. It is written in the stars. The heartbreak in 2018, the heartbreak in 2020. You cannot lose a game in more heartbreaking circumstances than what they did in the Euros. The curse it's on the precipice of breaking. And Gareth Southgate is the guy to break it. He is the guy to break it. He is the perfect coach at this time for this England national team. They've got so many players who will do everything to get through, everything to grab that brass ring and avenge so many years of hurt. It's England's time. England will win the World Cup in 2022. Guaranteed. Put it in the bank. Go load up. It's England's time. It's their time to win it. And they're going to do it. It's written in the stars. It's set up beautifully. They're almost the anti-hero of the World Cup. Everyone apart from the English hate them. Even some of the English hate them. But they're ready to break hearts. And it's time for them to take back what's theirs. If football hasn't come home for a long time, I think it's going to come home in 2022. So yeah, Argentina, Brazil, Germany, they're all capable winners. Spain are very worthy winners. The likes of I reckon the USA could really cause a shock. But I've gone with England. Let's move on so that's the groups all done. Let's go to the kind of things, right? To the breakout player, golden boot, golden ball, blah, blah, blah. Let's go on dark horse, Serbia, as I've said. They're the one from the dark horses video that got through the furthest alongside Denmark, but I don't actually classify Denmark as a dark horse. So it will be Denmark through. And no, it will be Serbia as my dark horse. My breakout player will be Cody Gakpo. Cody Gakpo will break out at the World Cup. He will be the James Rodriguez of 2022. He's a player that is on the precipice of exploding into a top 5 European club. He's having one of the best individual seasons I've ever seen at PSV, and this is the perfect platform for him to explode. The World Cup couldn't have come at a better time for Cody Gakpo, and he's ready to shock the world and just show just how good he is, even though he's playing in the Eredivisie, which isn't a great league in comparison to the top 5 European leagues. He will explode, and the World Cup has come at a perfect time for Gakpo. He'll be the breakout player at the World Cup in 2022. Golden Boot, I've gone with Lautaro Martinez. However, Alexander Mitrovic, Harry Kane, they're the two. I've gone with Martinez to be different and to be not, Harry Kane's going to score 10 million goals. I'll go with Martinez to be different. I've got Argentina going to the semis, right? So he should have enough time to get some goals, especially in the early stages. I've gone with Lautaro. If he starts up front, he'll score goals. He's very crucial to the way that Argentina play. So yeah, I'll go with Lautaro Martinez. I actually wrote down Lissandro Martinez on my run sheet, but that obviously wouldn't happen. I want to go to Golden Ball, and a player that has always showed up for his national team is Neymar, and I think this is his time to really, really show just how good he is. Because I feel like he's slightly underrated because he hasn't really achieved anything great. He hasn't won the Champions League. He hasn't won the World Cup. But I think if he gets it, when he gets that World Cup Golden Ball trophy, that's when people will put his name in the record books as, he was a generational talent, one of the best players in this era of football. He's extremely good, and it's his time to really show just how good he is. That's why he'll win the golden ball. In 2014, he probably would have won it if he didn't get injured. Maybe James was too far to catch, but if he doesn't get injured, probably Brazil will do something better against Germany, and who knows, they'll probably even win it. So yeah, it's Neymar's golden ball. Biggest underperformers, France. We've already spoken about France. They don't get through the group stage, and biggest overachievers, Qatar. Obviously, they're probably the team which I've got through going through the group, which not a lot of people have going through the group. So yeah, they are my World Cup 2022 FIFA World Cup predictions. Yeah, that was intense. I kind of went through the journey. I apologize if the minute distribution of what I spoke about for what players, for what teams, isn't exactly the same. I need to speed things up. I didn't realize how much I'd speak about each individual group for. But yeah, some other storylines I want to speak about in the tournament, of course, is just touch on briefly the horrendous underestimation of a lot of Asian teams. This was brought to my attention via Tom Williams, who is a unbelievable football journalist, up and coming Australian football journalist, who obviously did a tweet basically saying that a lot of people underestimated the Asian countries in the World Cup. I hadn't had that notion prior. However, he did show and did allude to the fact that Jamie Carragher had every single Asian country finishing bottom of their group, which in my mind is fucking ridiculous. Like, in my mind, the biggest one of all is Japan finishing below Costa Rica. That's fucked. But yeah, I don't understand why Asian countries get so underrated at World Cups, but like, Iran had a fantastic tournament last time out. Saudi Arabia have had a fantastic World Cup qualification campaign. Australia can do bits, and they will do bits. Japan are very good. South Korea are good as well. That's just something I just wanted to touch on ever so briefly. Yeah, I don't know. It's just quite bizarre why that's happening. I spoke about it a little bit when I spoke about some of the Asian clubs as well, but Asian nations, I should say. But yeah, that's probably it. Am I done? Do I need to speak about anything more heading into the World Cup? It's gone for an hour 16 minutes, which is by far my longest podcast. Definitely my longest solo podcast. I've done one with the Almost Blues Brothers a couple of months ago, which might have ticked over 115, but definitely my longest solo podcast. I've gone without a break. I haven't stopped, so I've spoken for an hour and 15 minutes straight, which is pretty good effort for me if I do say so myself. So yeah, am I done for the World Cup predictions? I've done all that. So let's go through some storylines, and I'm going to make these off the cuff. So the reason I'm doing this is because I did this for the Euros and I actually got some of them right. I'm just going to make some off the cuff. I'm going to go with. These are just some bold predictions. There will be a match at this World Cup that will see 4 red cards. 4 red cards at a match at this World Cup. We will see 4 red cards. We will see. I think what other predictions can I flick off the top of my head? I can't think of any. I've butchered it. Yeah, I've bottled it. But yeah, that's just something I'll say. 4 red cards. The World Cup curse continues. France get knocked out at the group stage. I've noticed... Actually, no. I was going to say I had all African nations finishing bottom, but I actually had Senegal finishing above Ecuador. Messi and Ronaldo don't meet in the final. Neither of them get that elusive World Cup trophy. And what else can I think off the top of my head? I think a team will not lose at this tournament. There'll be a team that won't lose, which I actually think is a slightly yeah, okay. A team won't lose, but they won't win the tournament. Someone's going to do a New Zealand in 2010 and draw all 3 of their group games and not get through the group. That's going to happen. And if I had to pick a team, I'm going to go with. I mean, Costa Rica are bastards, aren't they? They could draw all 3. I think I have to do it with someone who I've put in 3rd place. Otherwise, that makes no sense. I'll go with Switzerland. Switzerland will draw all 3 of their games and not make it out of the group, but they won't have lost. There you go. They're my bold predictions for the World Cup in Qatar. But yes, I think I'm done. I think that's all I need to speak about in terms of the World Cup. Hopefully, I've been able to cut some of this down into clips for some TikToks or for some YouTube clips to kind of pump it out. But yeah, that is all. That is what I wanted to speak about heading for the World Cup. That is my preview. They are my predictions. Thank you all very much for watching. I'm not sure if I've done this correctly. I don't know. There's something's not right. But no, I'll cut this up, and they'll be out on as clips on TikTok and on the YouTube channel heading into the tournament. I'll try and get up some like team specific ones or etc. If I spoke about them for a long enough period, more than a minute and a half maybe. But yes, thank you all very much for watching. Make sure I want to hear your predictions. Just give me. If you want, go through all your groups, but give me your winners, give me your final and your winners, biggest overachievers, biggest underachievers, underachievers, golden boot, golden ball. Let me know, and one storyline, one headline that will head out of this 2018 World Cup or 2022 World Cup. So yes, thank you all very much for watching. I'll leave those in the comment section below. Thank you all very much for watching another episode of the Two Foot Attacker podcast, the first of the 2022 FIFA World Cup, the first of many over this month and a bit period. Make sure you subscribe to the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel. The Inner Sanctum YouTube channel. Wow, that is muscle memory right there. The Two Foot Attacker podcast. If I've said the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel subconsciously throughout this podcast, there you go. Two Foot Attacker podcast. Yes, thank you all very much for watching another podcast. Subscribe to the Two Foot Attacker podcast YouTube channel, all the audio platforms, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating, follow, all that good stuff. Make sure TikTok, Instagram, Two Foot Attacker podcast, Twitter, tftpod is where I'll be doing most of my World Cup kind of not watch alongs, but live tweeting World Cup games. So if you want to hear me chat some shit throughout the games at 6 a.m. in the morning Australian time, that's where you can go see that. But yes, make sure you share this around, and share this around. It will mean the world if we could get as many people watching, as many people listening as possible. So yes, thank you all very much for watching another podcast. See you guys this time next week, where we will kick off our marathon of podcasts, one every single match day. My sleep schedule is punching me in the head, but my love for football is hugging me right now. But yes, thank you all very much for watching. See you guys next week. Oppa, we can't do this, can we? Here we go. See you guys next week. Thank you all very much for watching. Speak to you soon. Goodbye.